Okay, we're going to work with the Visual Data Tools, and the Visual Data Tools are a series of plugins that can create different types of bar charts. And you can see down here within our built-ins, in the geometry primitives, we have a folder on the left-hand side. It's called Visual Data Tools. Within here, you can see that we have things like the area chart, bar chart, line chart, pie chart, a scatter chart, and stock chart. So these are different ways that we can create charts, and you can do it different ways. You can do it by just creating it within the scene and using your own variables, or you can actually connect data to it and have data auto-populated. First, we are going to demonstrate each one with just doing it within the scene. So our first one here is the area chart, and what we're going to do is just drag this up into our scene tree like this. And if you click on that icon to go into the area chart editor, you can see we have a lot of different options here. So within the editor here, we have an option for shared memory. By default, it's inactive currently. So we're going to go ahead and change this to scene because we're going to use the scene data to create this area chart. And to do that, we also need an additional plugin. So we're going to go into our container plugins and we're going to use this data storage. So we're going to drag this onto our container as well. And now we're going to click on the data storage. We have a shared memory selection in there as well. It's inactive by default. We are going to click on it and click on scene. And now here is our key data 1. So we can keep this name as is, or we can rename this to whatever we want. In our case, since we are going to be filling out the X and the Y variables of this bar chart, we're going to name this data X just so we know that it's for our X variables. And down here in key data 2, we are going to name this one data Y. We're going to call this one data Y because this is going to be our Y data or our Y variables, which will create the chart. Now that we have this key data, what we want to do is start coming in and filling in the actual data points. So to scale this out on the X, what I'm going to do is just increment this up by 10. So I'm going to type in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and we'll go out to about 100. Now I'm also going to come down to data Y, and I'm going to create some variables here too. So we'll just randomly type in some different variables here, and you can see as we start doing this, how it's filling in this area chart here. So if we wanted to go high, we could go higher, and we wanted to even out for 1, we could go there. If we want to go back down, we'll take it back down to 0, and then if we wanted to go into negative numbers, we could do that as well, and we could put 20, and we'll just keep filling in these variables here to make this chart grow. Now that we have our variables, you notice that I put a comma in between each one. So over here in our area chart plugin, you notice our data delimiter was a comma as well. Had this been something else, you see that it will not actually take the variables from our data storage anymore because there is no data delimiter. If we put the comma back in, then it comes back. Now also notice when we filled in our data Y, or we have our data Y within our data storage here, this corresponds to this key data Y here, and this name matches the name in data storage. So these two names match. We also had a data X here, and if we come into our area chart plugin, we have these specify X values. So we could actually turn that on, and here you can see it's data X that we have, which corresponds to our label in our storage, data X with the capital X. So now that you have variables here and you actually have an area chart, you can use the other settings, which are quite deep within this plugin, to adjust it. So for example, one thing that we could do is we have a data X fit, and we can scale this out or scrunch it up to whatever we need to be. We'll need it, and this depends again on how many data points you actually have. In this case, we only had 10, so it's only making 10 points. If we needed more, we might need to spread this out a little bit more. There's also a data X offset. As we move this, it's spreading the data or the offset of the beginning point of that data. So moving down, you also have the data Y fit. So if you always wanted this to make sure that it's always going to fit within a certain parameter, if you had a chart that went off like 500 points, it may go off the screen, so you could set this so that it's always going to fit. And with that, you also have your data Y offset. So as you can see, when we adjust this here, that it will adjust the offset of where the middle point is above or below that line. If you needed to scale it up, you could actually come back into your transformation editor and scale it up this way again. And if you needed to rotate it, we could do that as well. There are options within the area chart or these visual data tools to make it three-dimensional. So if we come down here to the bottom here, and before we do that, let's drag some type of material onto it. So we'll go into our server here and find just some material we'll drag onto it. So here's a yellow material. And then down here within the visual data tools, we have options for like a bevel and then a chart depth. So we can increase this chart depth here, and you can see we're getting a line. So one of our variables might be off. So it looks like we have 5 there and an extra set at the end. So now you can see with our depth, so the chart depth here will extrude that more. And then you also have a bevel down here, which you can turn on and off. And furthermore, if you wanted to add a pointer, you have this little box down here, which you can turn a pointer on. And when you do that, it reveals another container in there. And remember, whenever you see a container like that, it's waiting for some other primitive or an image or something. In this case, it's a primitive. So we'll go back into our geometry primitives. And if we just wanted to use something within our container scene here as an arrow, we could. So you can come into your area chart here, and within this little box, you can drag your container there. And now this will align it. So you have your position X here that you could move your pointer along your area chart if need be. So there's a lot of settings within this area chart. Even though we made a very rough chart here using just the data storage in this plugin, you can come into the different settings within the plugin here and pretty much design this area chart as you need it. So those are just a few of the options within the area chart here. Next, we'll show you how to do the area chart with actual data coming from an Excel sheet.